Hi guys, welcome to new video. So today we'll continue with the map creation process series, and in this video we'll be still focusing on the last two steps, so step number 7 and 8. Before we get back to the trigger editor, I would like to talk a little bit more about the lights. We were already setting them up in the cave, but we didn't actually do them yet on the surface, so let's actually get into that. It will help us create a better atmosphere overall, and I mean, you can do it later after the trigger editor because it will be easier for you to see the map and place some locations. But for example, you can disable the fog for that and then enable it again. I will just do it right now so we don't forget about it later. So first thing I will set up here is light. So you will go here to this setup of sets, and here you will open a light. Then you will scroll down, and here you have those three parts of light setup. Yeah, we already talked about that in the video where we are creating the light in the cave. So nothing new. Let's just start with the terrain material, and maybe we can create like light blue tone, so it's maybe like a little bit later in the day, and maybe we can also add like rain or something later. So let's make those similar colors everywhere. Of course, you don't want to make it all the way to the right here because it will just look pretty weird, but just really subtle tone to that color, and it will make it look much better, of course. You can use all those different options to find that exact color that you want, of course. Maybe we can go a little bit darker here, then make it again a little bit lighter. Something like this. Yeah, it's also getting a little bit gray, but I think the blue tone is still there. Yeah, this is maybe a little bit too harsh, so let's make it a little bit darker and then decrease the saturation. And also the specular color here. As you can see, this is not changing too much, but let's set it up like this. And of course, you also need to change the color of objects, because as you can see, it looks a little bit weird when all units don't have the blue tone. So we will try to find the similar color here. Of course, it will not be the same. If you want the exact same, you will just copy all those numbers here from the previous colors you set up there. But I mean, I don't need to be so serious about it. So let's make it just approximately similar. So something like this, maybe a little bit darker. This is maybe a little bit too much. So maybe decrease the saturation a little bit. And yeah, this is really really strong, so don't really increase the value here. I will just change it to blue once again, maybe even decrease the saturation here. So as you can see, it looks much more natural. You can also check other positions because each player has different colors on his units, and you usually want to check all of them. After this, I will go to rain. So again, we'll go up here and find rain. Yeah, you can also set up snow and other things, but we will just choose the rain option here. Scroll down just a little bit, and here you have rain. So first you want to add some particles, so just either write a number or drag it upwards like this. And maybe we don't need such a strong rain, so maybe only like 30. And you also want to decrease the alpha here, so you can see through through this rain better. Yeah, so as you can see, it looks much more natural. Maybe like 0.20 will be okay. Yeah, you can also change the angle of the rain and maybe also how much it spreads, yeah, some speed, all those kinds of stuff. I will just keep it like this because it looks pretty okay. And the last thing that we will set up here is the fog. So let's change to fog, and here you have it. You want to set up choose distance here, and then we will bring the start to something like 12 or 15, and should be somewhere around 60 or 70, for example. And then you will choose the color you want. So maybe let's make it a little bit darker. Yeah, something like gray with just really subtle tone of that blue. So something like this should be quite okay. And as you can see, it looks pretty decent. Of course, if it will appear too dark in the game, then I can change it later. Yeah, adjust it, maybe decrease the fog or increase light or something. But right now, I think this looks pretty good. So of course, don't forget to save it. And now let's get back to the trigger editor. Of course, also don't forget that we still don't have a name for our map, so I will need to rename it later. Of course, all of that is part of the last step where we are creating the story and all those kinds of stuff. And that's basically something that we will be doing in this video and also next videos, where we will be still working in the trigger editor. So again, I will press Ctrl T, or you can just go here in scenario and open trigger editor. And last time, if I remember correctly, we created base, start, win, loss, and also quests. So in this video, we will try to focus on some entities here that will drop some items. So as you can see, I already have prepared here this trigger. Yeah, so you will name it after the entity, for example, wolf, if you want wolf entity to drop some items. Then you will add this condition. So as you can see, it's a unit that type. So you will go to unit commands here, values, and here you will find unit is that type. So you will click on that, and of course you need to check if it's true. So here you will check false, check true in values here. You want to set it up like this, so it equals true, and then you will click on the unit types, and you will find on the map that unit that you want to be dropping some items. So of course, as I mentioned when we are creating it, I want this shaman to drop some items. So after you choose him, you will also add in actions create entity, owner, neutral passive. Of course, it's in entity commands. So here in entity commands actions, it's actually the first one. And you will create a neutral treasure, and here you will either choose treasure with some resources or an item or whatever you want. So for example, here we could maybe use for example the water amulet. I believe here that will summon some varangis, so that might be quite interesting. And also you need to set up a new location. So of course you want to create it on the position where the shaman is standing. Of course it will look a little bit weird if you pull him out a little further and then it will appear here. So that's not really the best option here, but of course we cannot really do anything about it. We can spawn that item on a certain spot only, and I don't know about the way to spawn the item on the location where the unit dies. So we will just choose this location no matter where the shaman moves during the game. So like this, everything is set up. You can also change the amount if you want to create, for example, multiple of those items, or if you want a different item, you will just copy this line and choose another item. Of course, with the same condition and same location. And like this, it should be working. Of course, I will also change the name, so probably to Goblin Shaman. And also, once I click OK, I will also rename my location immediately so I don't forget about it. As you can see, we also have lots of different locations here that we are using in the previous videos, but all of those were for the peasants and minions that were being set up like this to harvest resources. So this is our first location that's actually for something else. So let's rename it to Goblin Shaman. And also let me check if we have some other units that I wanted to drop some items. I don't actually remember, but there are lots of spiders, so let's check this. Yeah, maybe we could use those big spiders and let them drop some items. Yeah, of course you can also just set up resources here. Yeah, so if you kill this spider, he will give you gold at death. So for example, I could just write a number here, but I don't really want it to give resources. I rather wanted to give some items. So let's actually go back, and I will just copy this trigger. Yeah, again, you have those pretty loud sounds there, but you cannot really do anything about it. And let's just write spider 1. I will choose the spider that I want. So for example, this one. And I would like to create, for example, maybe the web amulet, or we can also create some orbs of poison. That might also make sense when we are killing spiders. So let's make an orb of poison. Of course, you need to create a new location, so that will be somewhere around here. And again, I will just copy it once again, rename it to spider number 2, choose another spider that will be right here, and yeah, maybe this one can also drop this orb. That will be increasing the damage of unit the player uses it on by 20, so it will give you 20 poison damage. Of course, if that unit dies, we will lose that effect, but that doesn't really matter right now. And now let's choose the last spider. This is a little bit more tricky because he's a little bit hidden behind the tree, but we managed to click on him, and here we could use that item that I was talking about. So that will be the amulet, the web amulet, which will be summoning some spiders when you use it. And of course we need to create a new location once again. Let's click OK. Also you can check again with F6 if your location is on a playable spot, which it is right now. Also all the other locations, yeah, maybe we can move this location to here, and also this, like this. Right now I'll just rename all those locations. So this will be spider 1, this will be spider 2, and the last one will be of course spider 3. And I believe this is everything on the surface. All of those other animals or neutral enemies are not supposed to drop anything, I believe. Yeah, here you can rescue those peasants. This is also something that we'll need to set up. And yeah, there is probably nothing else. So let's just swap to underground, but here you already have all those treasures placed. And here you have also some items, and of course those this expansion, so probably we also won't add any more treasures dropping from enemies here. So this will be probably everything for this step. So let's open the trigger editor once again, and of course you can always click on the folder you are working in, click collapse, and then reopen it. It will just close everything, so you have more working space. And now I will actually need to create a new scenario editor, scenario trigger. So let's add new scenario trigger here. Of course, immediately disable it, and I will rename it to peasants. And actually, maybe let's copy this condition from here, and let's make it like this. If you kill this stag, yeah, the Geren, then the peasants will join you. So here should be something to change players. So let's go to units, actions, and as you can see here is change unit owner. So we'll just choose this. You have here change to player 1, which is us as the actual player that will be playing it. So that's the right thing. And now I will just choose the peasant that I want to change the owner. Of course, we will need to do this 3 times because we have 3 peasants, and right now it should be working. So once the player kills this main enemy here, all of those peasants will join him. Of course, you will also need to kill those guys because they are in front of them, but even if you ignore them and kill this enemy, you will still get those peasants, which is okay. So I believe this is everything we need to set up in this sense. Of course, here are also some enemies, but I don't need to worry about them because they are only protecting the mercenary camp, so nothing to change here. Again, of course, safer progress, and let's see what else can we do here. I believe that will be everything in the base for now. As you can see, I also have a dialogue here, but that's something I will be working at in the end, so definitely not in this video. So let's just close the base folder and let's open units morph. This is pretty interesting because here I have actually a morph trigger that we will actually need to use because I changed one unit in some of the previous videos, and I believe that we changed the baseline unit for Empire, the range unit, to Elf Sentinel. So I will actually need to choose the Elf Sentinel here. And the trigger I'm using here, the action trigger, is unit morph owner. So of course, sorry, not unit, but entity. So you will go to entity commands, and somewhere down here, I believe you will find unit morph. Yeah, sorry, not unit, but entity. Entity morph owner is the second one from bottom. You will choose it, and here you will choose the entity you want to transform, and of course you want it to transform everywhere, and there will be the unit that you want your units to transform to. So of course that will be the neutral elf sentinel. Like this, you will just make it like this, and then you will add delay 1 or 0 seconds, whatever you want, and then restart. So it will be a cycle that will be constantly transforming all elf sentinels to those elf sentinels that we want on the whole map. Of course, for player 1. If you want, you can also edit for all players, but right now I'm just setting this up for the player number 1. Then we have the mana regeneration command here. So I will need to check how we actually changed the hero, because here we have Captain as our hero, and it seems like I gave him some mana. Yeah, it seems like he has 100 mana, so we can actually change it. So he will already have full mana from start. And if we go back to Tech 3, we should be able to see what I actually made there. So it seems like Captain, and he has just a normal short sword, and then he has an ability to summon cave bears. So actually I didn't write any tooltip here, but it seems like it will summon 3 cave bears for 30 seconds, which actually seems pretty strong. But of course Captain doesn't have any mana in baseline, so we will need to adjust this a little bit. Actually, let me check the cave bear, because this seems a little bit too strong, so I probably a little bit adjusted the values, I believe. But yeah, actually it seems like I kept the normal values, but this seems a little bit too broken to have 3 bears for 30 seconds that are so strong. So maybe we'll need to adjust this a little bit. I don't actually remember what I was talking about in the previous videos when I was creating this, but yeah, this actually really seems too broken, I would say. So we will need to adjust the values a little bit. As you can see, the damage is probably also a little bit increased, but that's okay. I think Captain is it's really good based on those stats, but this ability is just too broken. So we can either decrease the amount of those bears or lifetime, or maybe the best thing will be just to decrease the strength of that unit. So we'll go to cave bear here. Let's just choose the player number 1, and let's maybe decrease the HP to like 500, and maybe also the attack, because 80 is really a little bit too much, so let's bring it down to like 30. Right now I believe it will be much more balanced. And now let's get back to that editor, because what I was talking about is that the captain unit doesn't have any mana in baseline, so he also doesn't have any mana regeneration. So you just need to create it like this. I believe there is also maybe a command that will just give you some random mana regeneration, or not random but automatic. But I haven't really choose that anywhere yet, so I haven't tested it. This is the trigger that has been working for me always. So you will just choose set entity attribute with owner. So that will be somewhere around here. Yeah, you can probably find it pretty fast. I don't see it right now, but it's somewhere in the entities here. And you will choose all, because you can choose all or number one, because we are creating it right now for player number one. Then you will choose mana point, and there you will choose the unit. So it will be the captain, and of course it will be everywhere. Right now, sorry, I was just closing something on my other monitor. Right now you will also choose the plus equal here and 1, which means, because we created a loop here, it will be a cycle. So every 1 second the mana of captain will be increased by 1. Yeah, so you can also adjust the value to maybe 2 or something. So we will just need to play with it and find the right spot. Of course, the last part of this whole project or of this whole series will be testing. Actually, that's the most important thing of any project that you will be doing. That you always need to test what you created, and of course there we will finally see what is working and what is not, and then we can adjust all those values. Right now we are just creating the base that we will be working with later. So this is the units morph folder. I believe we don't need to set up anything more here. And this will be probably everything for this video, and next time we will finally take a look on those armies. So we will start creating some, or making triggers that will be creating units for our enemies, and also creating some attack triggers and all those kinds of stuff. So that will be the main thing in the next video. So yeah, take care guys.